Wow. Right now, the only two things I need are a bath and a hug. Let's review Lords of Chaos. Lords of Chaos stars Rory Culkin, Emery Cohen, and is directed by Jonas Åkerlund. What's up, guys? CP, my good buddy CP, and his better half, Emily, from Emily's Adventures in Horrorland. They recently just put out a review for Lords of Chaos, and it's a movie that I knew existed. I saw it, I think I saw it on, was it on Shudder? It was one of those platforms. I went looking for it on Netflix, and then I eventually found it on Amazon. So I'll put an Amazon affiliate link below so you can rent it if you want to rent Lords of Chaos. It's also on Vudu. You can check it out over there. This is one of those types of films that you can get, like, if you go down this rabbit hole, it gets pretty dark and you feel pretty depressed and bleak about the world, and because it's based on a true story. It's based on the black metal band Mayhem. And I've heard of Mayhem before. This is a band that I saw on, like, it was a VH1 documentary about, I think it was like most dangerous metal bands or something like that. And their story will definitely stick out. Like, it's definitely a story that you'll never forget. So going into this review, this is a true story. You can go back and research the events and just know that this is one of the most insane bands that ever existed. If you think Motley Crue is debaucherous, this band makes Motley Crue look like Air Supply. Okay? This is how crazy this band gets. I guess first off, a little backstory about Mayhem. This is a band, really they are kind of the founders of black metal. When they started, black metal didn't even exist. I'm not a fan of black metal. I'm a metalhead. I like Metallica. Tool is my favorite band. You know, I have my comfort zone there. I don't go like into that deep, dark, satanic type stuff. It's just not my thing. So black metal's never been something that's, you know, interested me. The story, this movie is interesting. The story behind Mayhem is interesting. And there's, you know, dozens of other black metal bands that never went as far as Mayhem. Or, you know, and I'm not like a black metal connoisseur. I don't know every story about every band out there. Like I said, it's not my thing. But even if you're just a metalhead, you've probably heard of Mayhem just because of what went on. And I'm going to talk about what went on. So some of you might find some of this spoilerish. I'll try to keep that stuff for the back half of the review, though. But some of this stuff's going to pertain to certain characters, specifically two of the characters. And I want to talk about what they did, the crime that they committed, and the events that happened to them. So know that going into this. But really, this is a biopic. And we just remembered the Queen biopic and how it was all sanitized and everybody said, this is a PG-13 biopic. I like the Queen movie. It's decent. But when you go and watch movies like this, they got it right as far as what you want to strive for in a music biopic. You want to tell the story, you know, and you shouldn't care about the rating of the story. The story of Queen, I'm sure, is rated R. The story of Mayhem, it's impossible to tell this story without making it rated R. Another recommendation I can make is Control, which is one of my favorite movies about Ian Curtis from Joy Division. Please check out that movie if you love music biopics. That is the best that's out there, in my opinion. I love it. It's not like the conventional biopic that has the normal beats. You know, it does everything perfectly. But this movie, Lords of Chaos, just to give you a quick plot synopsis, it's a story told in chronological order. It's about the band Mayhem. The main character, Euronymous, played by Rory Culkin. This story is told through his eyes, through his voice. And he says at the beginning of the movie, it's not going to end well. It's one of those movies that, you know, they give you a little nugget there, a little hint. And the characters in this movie, they live in Norway. So he started this band, Mayhem, and really this is not the rise and fall, but the crash and burn, I guess you could say. Mayhem is a very different band because they were totally against capitalism and, you know, marketing from a traditional standpoint. They didn't even like going out on tour. That, you know, anything that was considered cool, or more importantly, like selling out, they were completely against that. They considered that to be poserish. So they were anti-establishment. You could say they were satanic, but really they were satanic in a sense that they didn't like the establishment, the thumb over them, you know, people telling them what to do, control. That's more what it's about. It's really less about Satanism and more about control. But at the beginning of this movie, you know, Mayhem, they're putting their band together, and he gets this lead singer by the name of Death. That's what they call the singer. This is all true. And this singer, Death, comes into the story, and this guy was completely suicidal from the get. He had a very troubled upbringing. He had a near-death experience when he was like 10 years old. And so he literally died for, I think, minutes. And when he died, he saw all these visions, whatever, and so became obsessed with death. So much so that he made it part of his act. He would literally like sniff like dead birds in a bag, you know, to get the smell of death before he would go on stage. And he eventually commits suicide. This is at the beginning of the movie, you know, the first third of the movie, really. And the suicide scene in this is pretty startling. And it reminded me of the way the suicide scene was dealt with in 13 Reasons Why. You know, it just felt real. And that is one thing that I definitely wanted to touch on with this review, and how violence is dealt with in this movie. It's dealt with in more of a realistic manner, you know, like the evening news type manner. It feels like stuff you would see in like a serial killer movie. But yeah, anyway, he kills himself. And then the crazy thing is Euronymous, instead of calling the cops, he literally takes a Polaroid camera and takes a picture, and then keeps pieces of the guy's brain, you know, and he even like shipped the picture to another country, and they actually published the album with the picture of the dead singer on the album cover. That's how crazy this band is. And so really what this movie is about, you know, long story short, is it's Euronymous' story and how he gets caught up in the dangers of Mayhem in this band, and how he really started the whole thing, and eventually ending in his own demise. And he really created this monster. There's another character in this movie by the name of Varg. When he first meets Yuri, he tells him he's a fan. And you know, a lot of people, when they get into these, you know, this band environment, they get really cocky, you know? My band is the greatest thing in the world. And if you like this other band and not my band, then you are, you know, you're not worth it. And so he sees this scorpion patch on his jacket, and all he says to him is like scorpions, which pretty much means you like the scorpions, so you're not worthy. And so Varg takes that to heart, and you know, he completely engulfs himself in the black metal lifestyle, and so much so that it like consumes him and takes him over, and eventually he performs these heinous acts in the final act of the movie. And I have to give major props to Rory Culkin and Emery Cohen, who played Euronymous and Varg. Fantastic performances all around. And Emery Cohen was downright scary in the last act of this movie. You know, and this isn't even a horror movie, but this is probably the most frightened I've been in a movie in a long time. Just because of that last scene, there's this confrontation between these two characters. And I'll talk about that confrontation here in a minute. So we're going to enter the spoiler zone here in just a minute. But there's this confrontation at the end of the movie where Varg is so delusional that he thinks that Euronymous wants to kill him. And so he literally takes a knife to Euronymous' house at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Goes into his house to get him to like sign a contract. But he literally stabs him to death over and over and over and over again. And when I watched this, I wasn't, you know, aware if Euronymous died or not in real life. And so when I'm watching this, I'm just enthralled by what's going on. And you know, even though Euronymous is not like a good guy at all, I mean, these are people that burn churches. Jonas Åkerlund did such a great job of setting these characters up. And especially Euronymous, how he does have an arc there where he starts turning his life around, he falls in love, he starts pulling back from the craziness of the lifestyle. And he, you know, this is the moment where he starts, you know, he even cuts his hair. And so he wants to be a better person, at least according to the story. And Varg kills him slowly, very slowly, and it's a very scary and yet painful and emotional scene to watch. The performance by Rory Culkin and Emery Cohen in that scene is beautiful, tragically beautiful. And that one scene right there is what hooked me into this movie. It's a hard movie to rate because after watching this movie, then of course you're interested in the story of Mayhem, so you go and you research the story, and it starts getting really dark, and you start getting depressed, and you just, it's a dark side of life. It reminds me of, I just reviewed Last House on the Left and how Wes Craven said, sometimes the dark side of art does need to be focused on. We don't always need to be looking at the entertainment side of art. This is a great example of the dark side of art. This is not a movie that you're going to want to watch over and over and over. And I gave it 1.5 viewings. It's a tough movie. And it's just interesting because it's a biopic, But yeah, it's the story is enthralling and disgusting and unsettling. Just so many things all in one. But this is not a movie that's going to be for everybody too, if I'm jumping into the cons. There are some people that are just going to be downright offended by this movie. It does kind of portray an attack on Christianity. But, this is a true story. This is who these characters were. They were not for Christianity at all, and they literally burned churches. And I found that offensive. Just because it's a disgusting thing to me. And I respect all religions. Every single religion out there I respect. You have the right to believe whatever you want to believe, and any story that can be told should be told. And this is a story, and it's a true story about this real band. And like I said, it's not going to be for everybody. But I'm definitely going to give it a low purchase worthy, and I'm basing that on the performances, on the directing. And it is an interesting story. It's pretty insane, really, that this was a really popular metal band. They're only known in metal circles, but still, it's a really interesting story that a metal band became so infamous because of the atrocities that went on within that metal band. So anyway, guys, that is my review for Lords of Chaos. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this movie below in the comments. You can have a good conversation about this movie. It's freaking insane. If you want to watch it, like I said, check out my Amazon affiliate link. You can watch it. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.